Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's start.
Before we start, if you enjoy powerful stories about betrayal, unexpected revenge, and life changing twists, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. When I pulled into the driveway that afternoon, my dress was hanging from a rose bush, not folded, not in a bag, just thrown over the thorns like someone had planted a flag of surrender. It was the dark green dress I'd bought in Milan 3 years earlier. The fabric was snagged on the branch, moving slightly in the wind, and around it, my entire life was scattered across the lawn. Shoes, books, my college sweater, a cosmetic bag ripped open with makeup spilled across the grass. I sat in the car for a moment with the engine still running. On the porch stood my mother-in-law, Margaret Caldwell, her arms folded like a judge delivering a sentence. Next to her was her daughter Emily, chewing gum and scrolling through her phone like none of this concerned her. I looked at the lawn again, then at Margaret, and one quiet thought crossed my mind. They have no idea who they're dealing with. My name is Lena Zhao Caldwell. I'm 37 years old. I have a finance degree from the University of Chicago and an MBA from Stanford. I also own a real estate investment firm called Northbridge Capital, managing over $300 million in properties across the West Coast. But no one in the Caldwell family knew that, not even my husband. And that secrecy had been intentional. 4 years earlier, I met Daniel Caldwell at a rooftop party in downtown San Diego. He was charming in that effortless way some people are, the kind of man who could walk into a room and make everyone feel comfortable within minutes. He made me laugh. And during that period of my life, laughter felt rare. I had stepped back from work for a few months while my company ran under my COO. I rented a modest apartment, cooked my own meals, and lived quietly. Daniel met the simple version of me, the version without the company, the money, or the responsibilities, and I made a mistake. There's a small window in relationships where you're supposed to reveal big truths like wealth or success. If you say it early, it's just information. But if you wait too long, it starts to look like deception. I waited too long. By the time I realized I needed to tell Daniel the full truth, we were already talking about marriage. Then we got married, and shortly after, we moved into his mother's house. Just temporarily, Daniel had said. The house was in a quiet suburb outside the city. Across the street stood a glass luxury high-rise called Skyline Tower. Margaret Caldwell watched that building rise floor by floor from her kitchen window for years. Whenever she mentioned it, her voice carried a strange mixture of envy and admiration. Daniel and I were supposed to stay with her only a few months while we found our own place, but months turned into 18 months. During that time, I did everything I could to help the household run smoothly. I organized Margaret's medical paperwork. I sorted through the financial documents her late husband had left behind. I cooked meals. I cleaned. I stayed quiet. But Margaret had already made up her mind about me. In her eyes, I was a woman who had gotten lucky marrying her son, someone who contributed nothing. Her daughter Emily made sure to remind me of that whenever she visited. Then one afternoon, everything changed. "Emily's boyfriend is moving in," Margaret announced from the porch. "He needs the spare room." I looked at the lawn where my belongings were now scattered. "And where am I supposed to sleep?" I asked. Margaret didn't hesitate. "The garage." Emily finally looked up from her phone and smirked. "You don't even pay rent here," she said. "Think of it as indoor camping." I turned slowly toward the garage. The door hung crooked in its frame. Even from the driveway, I could smell motor oil and damp concrete. Something shifted inside my chest. Not anger, something colder, more final. "I won't be sleeping in the garage," I said calmly. Margaret smiled, the smile of someone who believed they had already won. "My house," she replied, "my rules." Then she turned and slammed the door. I stood on the lawn for another moment, staring at my dress tangled in the rose bush. Then I took out my phone, not my personal contacts, my work line. "Victor," I said when he answered. My voice had changed into the tone I used in business meetings, calm, clear, certain. Bring the car to the Caldwell residence. There was a brief pause. Understood, he replied. 30 minutes later, a long black luxury sedan turned onto the street. It didn't roar. It didn't draw attention. It simply arrived. My driver, Victor Alvarez, stepped out in a tailored suit and quietly began collecting my belongings from the lawn. Every shoe, every book, even the torn cosmetic bag. Margaret and Emily rushed onto the porch, confusion replacing their earlier confidence. "Whose car is that?" Emily asked. I didn't answer. I stepped into the car. The door closed softly. Victor drove forward, turned the corner, and entered the golden gates of Skyline Tower. My building. My penthouse office sat on the 35th floor. From the windows, I could see the entire neighborhood, including the Caldwell house across the street. My phone began buzzing with messages from Margaret, from Emily. Then Daniel called. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Mom says you caused a scene. It's just the garage for a few nights." I looked down at the street below. "You knew?" I asked quietly. Silence. "It's her house," he said finally. "We have to respect that." That was the moment something inside me closed forever. "Daniel," I said calmly, "have you ever wondered who owns Skyline Tower?" Another pause. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Good night," I said. I ended the call. The next morning, I met with my attorney. Within hours, 2 documents were prepared, a divorce filing and a legal notice, because 1 year earlier, when I discovered the house was drowning in unpaid mortgage debt, I had quietly purchased the loan through one of my companies, which meant Margaret Caldwell had made one very serious mistake. The house she threw me out of was already mine.